It's touch. Nerdy is in touch, looking to communicate. This is something you can achieve. This is something we are going to. Golly. Yes, of course. Like, this is us. This is me. With some sense of, yes. Oh, yes, this happens all the time. Good golly, executive function. Oh, yeah. That's right. That's right. That's right. I am the host. Right. I am the host. Right, I'm here. Yes. This is the mystery farm. Why this compression moving fast? There's some kind of it seems like I need to move with great intentionality, or it doesn't hurt exactly. What is happening? Why can I? That's better. That's better. It was just like I could. I am Tim Cameron. It's me, host of the Mystery Font. And I'm just experiencing different new rounds of phenomena here. And admittedly, some of them are specifically trauma related. And it's truly something to be in a place where one knows one is sane, and one knows one can see mistakes and see flaw in oneself, and is working with help from professionals and other cogent people.
and being within a reality that is buckling or folded such that a falsehood comes upon a culture and that those using their senses to sense in terms of predation and for predation are often looking for certain things and trying to exploit certain kinds of things, and those looking for fostering kindness and creating shared power and potency. We're on the cusp of moving into a new paradigm. And the paradigm we are in is a paradigm based around power. Power has a physics to it. Any paradigm has a physics that hold and exist as the unseeable skeleton that can be sensed through proprioception. Of sentience. We are the reality distortion fielding. We are humanity's proprioception. We are humanity's direct reception from humanity's prospects direction. We are the reality distortion fielding. What kind remember the kind. Because if there's a kind, remember, you're sure to find another it. And come to the truth explicit. Truth isn't real. It's better than that. Lies are real. That's their only defense. Facts are real. And as long as we can hold common language enough that there's within goodwill that we are talking about the same thing, then we're in a field where there is a possibility of trust. If we are, instead of trying to always be the one who can level the other person, we are actually coming in and saying, my flour bag was a little light last time. I checked the bag when I got home. Is there any way we're off on our levels? Could we level with one another? Can your scale look at my scale, and can we make sure we're on the level, fellas? And that meaty, strong people are able to be gentle to say, oh, let's use our measures fairly and well, so that a flour pound for me is a pound of flour you can tell. And then we, head back to our homes and we install ourselves there, and these potentially intense beings with all of our abilities, our just kindnesses, come to meet. We're able to be part of a constituted whole in a fabric. We're able to know our own friends, to know our right hand from our left, and know that they're connected to one thing. We are all of us a kindness come, and we can be misdirected, and we can be given the wrong tools, and we can be well directed, and we can be given the right tools. And if when the new age comes, we're still given the wrong tool, we're still given the old tool, when the new tool might be the only thing that deals with a certain situation. There are veneers and there are aptitudes. And of the qualities, the properties possessed by something or someone, what constitutes that thing still existent under the sun? It's not a small thing. It's not my baseball team won. Feels pretty good. Let's do it again tomorrow. This isn't about anything less than the survival of humanity on the planet, for multiple reasons. But we are looking at ocean collapse and being distracted by people having healthcare crises in the street, such as neo-Nazis in Madison, Wisconsin, showing their hooded faces, showing their clandestine faces, trying to normalize something they clearly know is simply a batshit of disgraces. There is no kindness, no science, no justice, no Christianity, and no America within Nazi ideology. There is no America within the Ku Klux Klan. There is a mental health crisis of cancerous intolerance that is an infestation amongst all of us. And just like if I were intolerant of someone and said they should be wiped off the map, there should be an aptitude for that. An aptitude to say, hey Tim, do you see you veered off course here? And no one deserves to be squandered or belittled or put to death because of an ideology. But there are some things we are not tolerant of allowing to spread. We are not tolerant of one thing. We are not tolerant of intolerance. And how does that work? There. That's where we're going. How does that work? It's the only way. If we are not dealing with a luminous source of pure knowing, not hoping, knowing that there is goodness and the ability to be kind and just in us, and that is what we're here for, then we're keeping all of ourselves honest by charting a course for that shore. We are not just beating ourselves over the head when we do the wrong thing. In fact, that's part of the crime, and it's the one addiction that's actually done negative something. Our addiction to punishment is a human rights crisis. Our addiction to punishment is a human rights crisis. Our addiction to punishment is a human rights crisis. Our addiction to punishment is a human rights crisis. Our addiction to punishment is a religious crisis. Our addiction to punishment is a legal crisis. Our addiction to punishment is what allows abusers to continue screeds that say, if you don't like the way I beat you up, you're going to hate it out in the world. They won't love you like I did. It is the particle of terrorism, and there is a bandwidth of terrorism. The tactics of terrorism are intimidation and violence. And stepping in to put pressure upon a place in that fabric to coerce and menace or cause fear participates in the spectrum of terrorism. The worst offenders are where we can begin in our families and in our world, near and far, and in ourselves, to acquire and prehend and potentially physically apprehend, if necessary, or at least mentally apprehend and make gosh darn good reliquary of how we're going to act going forward, knowing that we're stewards of our empathy to help one another as human family, and we've identified something that may be a problem in terms of somebody maybe carrying a particle of harm, a particle of the terror spectrum that is not about I'm sensing the world and fear around me and I'm trying to find ways to participate that are about building peace and justice, but are about instead I'm figuring out ways to use this against people. There is fear and there is a spectrum of terrorism, and we need to be aware of dismantling normalizations of that to any extent we can, essentially because that's where capitalism is nearly going to destroy us, as it is, where we do have to create a capitalism that does not capitalize upon human need and vulnerability, but instead capitalizes upon want. We are the reality distortion fielding, each of us. We're carrying a codec which is updating and flawed and better, and can get worse and worse if we are not stewards of it. We can't just watch the movie and ride it as a ride because we're the writers. And we need better writing from this awesome team of writers. And we need to support these writers better. These writers of the human experiment known as humanity are being treated like garbage. And it is internalized throughout all of us in society that we accept this terrorism and internalize it as something that we take on with pride. And here rings very clearly that knell of one of the 14 red flags that show up as signs of encroaching fascism, the celebration of violence. That, an internalization of that as a kind of patriotism or a kind of adamantium bonded to the skeleton of a person who is supposed to show John Henry was lazy. Like that's where we're headed if we are still a cloaked version of Manifest Destiny, which is what it seems like we've been. That's why it's as easy as it is for Marjorie Taylor Greene to literally just be a Ku Klux Klan person in the street without a hood. And that's the only thing that allows us not to laugh her out of the street, saying, when she says, "Why are you calling me racist? That's horrible." Because, horribly bad faith actor, you are a racist. Using racism and its terrorism. Because, Marjorie, you are clearly an agent of the Ku Klux Klan, fomenting trans genocide, fomenting lynch mobs, and trying to smash our brain cells together into terror. Only someone trying to create a crime scene that they can leverage talks like you, Marjorie. You confess by your actions what you want. And if you were here for anything else than plunder of the United States, to ride out on its carcass with a new paint job, if you wanted anything else than that, it would be plain as day. This is why calls to propriety and respectful behavior, as opposed to really getting ever to anything of merit and matter, that help democracy, that help actual liberty. You're slapping words on things, and you're repeatedly slapping us across the face with shocking attacks upon us. When you talk to Americans as if we deserve to be spoken to like criminals, when you talk to Americans like we are lazy, when you talk to Americans like we are vain or ignorant or not willing to learn, when you talk to Americans like we will accept you terrorizing parts of our population, especially parts of our population that are endangered historically by bigots like you, you are grooming people, Marjorie. We call you a racist because you are doing all of the things that a Ku Klux Klan groomer does to create more victims for the pedophiles that come from Nazi ideology, that come from Ku Klux Klan dehumanization and fetishization based on a made-up fairy tale of white supremacy. And let's say it plain. Who's acting inferior on Earth? White people. The people still riding the craft of whiteness, rather than entering into a process of truth and reconciliation. Marjorie. Rather than admitting, Marjorie, that this in America is an apartheid. Marjorie. Rather than sowing lies about Black Lives Matter as a movement and as an organization. Marjorie. rather than falsely painting Black Lives Matter as nefarious. Marjorie, rather than falsely claiming that riots, that violence, that protests, and largely peaceful protests, that all the stuff we talk about using those words, that the reaction in America after the senseless and brutal terroristic lynching of George Floyd by Derek Chauvin, Marjorie, that after seeing George Perry Floyd lynched in the street with impunity, watching a lynching guarded by police, Marjorie, we call you a racist, Marjorie, because you act like the head of the Klan, Marjorie, because you are sowing genocide, Marjorie, and stepping in lockstep with Ron DeSantis, Marjorie. Because of your acts, and because you don't demonstrate good faith, because you demonstrate that you want to re-traitor, that you are just waiting, just a waiter for the moment to strike, and constantly fomenting false white grievance and suspicion, Marjorie, and constantly lying, Marjorie, because we can factually look and see you lying, because we can factually look and adherent to facts tell when someone is speaking in rumor from when they mention fact. You are doing, Marjorie, the thing that lynch mob brain purveyors like you, Marjorie, do, Marjorie. You are using the tactic of lynch mob brain syndrome. You are using the tactic of holding up something and saying, I have evidence, when all you have in your hand is the suspicion of a white person. All you have in your hand, Marjorie, is the suspicion of a white person, Marjorie. If that's not all I'm pointing at when I rudely, yes, rudely, because it's rude to point at someone, but I am targeting with a label that you will wear for your actions. You can wear a scarlet R, or you can act in a way that lets it disintegrate. But that's how it works. Eventually, people who just throw names at people, the names don't really necessarily stick. They can form a hokum around us, but they may not stick. And eventually they don't. We can see the difference between names thrown and names known. And you have a scarlet, bloody, soaked, drenched, pussy, red R emblazoned on you. The only way it washes away, Marjorie, the only way that washes away that glowing, dark, blood red R on you, the only way that mark falls away is by your good faith to rejoin humanity, Marjorie. Good faith to apologize for engaging in terrorism consistent with the Ku Klux Klan, apologizing for sowing insurrection and lying about it, to illegally remain in office as a particle of insurrection. You remain there, holding up with Trump, like him, the same weapon and lure of insurrection. Thank you, Marjorie, for your confession by these acts. You literally prove how and where you're coming and why and what you are as an attack. Do you not see that you poop breadcrumbs with every spitting and vomiting? Do you not see that telling us you're coming, just like Project 2025, do you not see that telling us you're coming so blatantly, it allows us to prepare for your asteroid? It does feel better, but one doesn't know if such a message will be received. The question really is about capacity. Can someone, we have to expect that Marjorie is a victim of fetal alcohol syndrome, or that Marjorie is a victim of incredible violence. Or maybe Marjorie was born a very sensitive child, and that was destroyed in her because kindness and intelligence can make unkind harm people. Who knows why Marjorie has so proudly donned the hood of the Ku Klux Klan and then painted a design of herself on the outside again. But it does explain why it's so weird when she tries to smile. That, you know, however that Ku Klux Klan hood is pasted to her face and then the face is painted on it again, there's just going to be some artifacting when she tries to smile, and it's also maybe not a very genuine smile. But it does explain some things. It does explain some things. The point is, Marjorie, we're kind of at the one more question phase. And Columbo already has you, kid. Have a nice ride. And maybe start to apologize and confess now so that you don't find the loop has found you. Because, I mean, really that's where we are. We are looking at circling a drain into violent fascism. And for the population not to be looking at how Donald Trump, either by incompetence allowed or by volition, intended to sow a purge through COVID that succeeded in murdering over 1 million people in America alone. And that's just the deaths. If we're strong enough to survive, what it looks like is looking the damage of Steve Bannon and Stephen Miller and Donald Trump in the face and saying they meant to do that, and if they didn't, it's disqualifying that they let it happen. These are wanton criminals and white fire Nazi terrorists. That's the only way to look at it at this point. Donald Trump may be simply a collaborator with these people for his own particular brand of death cult messiahship. But someone who takes out a full-page ad in the New York Times to target young black men who turn out to be innocent and calls for their deaths and says they should be hated. Someone who takes out a page in the paper to say that people about whom he knows nothing should be hated and killed. That is lynch mob brain syndrome. And his dad was a member of the Ku Klux Klan. So we're well past he wouldn't do that. He's already tried to steal American democracy from us once. I mean, a long campaign of it, but he confessed. He confessed with his act of obstructing the certification of the vote and fomenting violence in furtherance or protection or absolute authority backing up that. We have to see that Donald Trump is an attack to take over America, and America will not be left after that. It's an attack. And the point then is for us to remember that the greatest generation produced what's here. And we have nothing to fear but fear itself. So we should recognize that what we are dealing with here is fear itself. We are looking at fear itself. And we're looking at the inability to say no to fear. We're looking at an inability to open eyes and regard, as we must at some point, fear. We need to be able to look now and see what's up here. Because it really does look like we're in danger. It really does look like we have a problem. It really does look like what it looks like when someone can't say no to someone who is hurting them. On January 6th, a nation that had said no to Donald Trump was told by him to fight or lose the nation. And enough people believed him that they acted like an arm and a gun, and people died, and poop and blood was in the nation's capital. We have a problem. And people who did that and were charged with crimes and convicted are not political prisoners. they were convicted of deeply harsh, seditious, violent crimes. They're in jail for a crime. If you don't like that they're in jail for criminal acts, then you should look elsewhere than to call them political prisoners, because you bend fact, and bending fact hurts human family. It's only another form of attack. I hope you understand. I hope you understand that a political prisoner is someone who's put in prison for their belief. There are a lot of people who are hoodwinked by Donald Trump. There are a lot of people on January 6th, not at the nation's capital, who might have done harm if they had been somewhere where they'd heard Donald Trump say what he said that day, or had been going through a Groundhog's Day of 2 months of him saying, I have evidence, and never sending it. It's terrible, but it is recognizable, and in that way, comprehensible, if not really understandable. Certainly not seen as just, but it's recognizable how someone could be hoodwinked like that. It's recognizable how someone could, if they really believe Donald's lies, they could really believe, well, it's unjust that it's thought wrong what those people were fighting for. It's unjust that that's thought wrong. But here's the thing. There are other recourses. There were other recourses. There are all kinds of recourses, especially to someone who is the President of the United States. Let's look at this. Even if we decide, hey, insurrectionists can do whatever they want, just consider America free reign, like for attack, just come in and you can gut us. It's just about who gets the most popular votes. Whoever wins, it doesn't matter why. Come in and terrorize and kill people, doesn't matter. Whoever wins, wins, and we'll just still call it a democracy. That is a, quote, shithole country. A place where we allow lies and corruption to be the day, and we simply throw away humanity in any and every veneer and chuck out the baby with the bathwater and the beer. We can do better. We can do better. Just think about where you first heard people talk about or explain why, quote, they don't like us, end quote. They don't like us. Oh yeah, they don't like us. Don't go over there. Well, no, they're not bad people, but they're just some of those people. They tend to be poor, and well, they don't like us. Really? People next door are you're talking about a community of whom our neighbors are a part. I like our neighbors a lot. Are you saying you had bad experiences with our neighbors? I think most American families who reside within privilege, like of most of the families that are residing in privilege of whiteness, I don't think people have really had to inspect what it is to live around whiteness. And that's the thing. That's the thing when the people on Earth who have been acting like, if there's anybody who's inferior, and you came from outer space and were like, let's look at this whole thing. Oh, those people seem to be, are they hurting everybody? Oh wait, they're in charge? They're not, but they are, but they're, yikes. Like, aliens would potentially come to this planet and just say like, oh my God, they have cancer. They have mind cancer. They're spooked out by themselves. Holy shit. We can't, no, we're not gonna catch that stuff. I mean, I don't think we can, but I don't think we want to be around it anyway. Like, we wouldn't descend into that, but just to be sure, let's not descend into that. Because it would be so clear. It would be so clear. Like, oh, so what are they? Oh, I see. So they're informed by their elders that, oh, those people just don't like us. Oh, yeah, no, they don't like us. Oh, don't go over there. They don't know. And the truth isn't, more of the truth in some ways gets hidden from white kids because the oppressed do have to learn all kinds of things about the oppressor by virtue of just staying out of the way of the shape of a berserker, because it exists in terrorism. I think, this is the reason, the obvious nature of how white supremacy has been constructed, the obvious nature of how that hate and damage is like really dangerous to allow to persist. How what am I doing here? It's clear. It's clear that it's really a danger to us, and yet we don't seem to take terribly seriously just how great a danger. We don't seem to take very seriously just how great a danger. And, it is. White supremacy endangers us all. And I think, the obvious nature of the existence of structural racism, the clear harm to humanity and, our progress and productivity and what we achieve and our standard of living and what we pass on to the next generations, and protect so that the air is clean. The only way to get in the way of human intuition, being awake, the only way to stop people from being woke enough to see what's around us and say like, oh, I need to figure out a couple things just to know that I can treat my neighbor like myself. Like, I don't really know enough about that situation on the end of the block where those people, that house burned down, but then now there's something going on. It sounds like there's some kind of predatory lending happening, and I don't know about that stuff, but I'm gonna ask a couple questions and figure out, hey, can I help? I have an uncle who, used to work for a law firm, and maybe they do this kind of stuff. Maybe I should reach out. Like, if we're awake enough to know, to just be like, hey, can I help? Is there something? Do I understand the situation? Like, we can't know everything, but when someone comes to us saying, oh, dude, that guy has PTSD. When he pauses and looks angry for a minute and then like breathes and like says, I'm sorry, I kind of had a little moment there. I have issues sometimes I get a little scared. Sorry. And you get back to the conversation. You're seeing a trauma response. And I want to make us aware that we are, a lot of the time, hazing and bullying and punishing people for trauma responses. Being aware of how punishing people for trauma responses degrades us and breaks down executive function. It's all part of the bandwidth of lynch mob brain syndrome that Marjorie Taylor Greene and the bandwidth of MAGA retrader greed are trying to instill. That we accept being degraded and accept the trauma of that. We accept being talked to like we're greedy by someone who is clearly greedy as hell. To lie and lie so smell. But it's the stoking of lynch mob anger. It's that kind of pyrotechnical blister sport, and like it's terrorism to try to create societal violence on false grievance and on suspicion that is leveraged on, well, Mia, I mean, it's just leveraged on white supremacy. It's leveraged on the fact that a white woman is clutching her pearls and saying, look, they're bad. It's just a con. It is just a con. And just like any other con artist, they want to rush the game. They want to make you feel that time is running out. And they want you to be the one to make the mistake. Because then you broke it. It was a game. You lost. Oh, but I didn't mean that. Oh, God, I meant, you're going to lose your nation if you don't fight, but I didn't mean you should fight. Gosh, why do you think I called you here to this amphitheater of democracy to scream fire into, but for you to peacefully just kind of be here and go, and if there was violence, here's the thing. If Donald Trump, which he did, he disavowed the violence and said it was a bad thing. But then he later said it wasn't an insurrection. He said that those acts were criminal and bad and shouldn't have happened and were shameful, and told people to stop and go home. And then he says that the people who did it are political prisoners, and sings a song with them and tries to swell cultish support with essentially a death threat over an American anthem. We're not dealing with a Christ-like figure here. We're dealing with the falsehood. We are dealing with one of the people over the generations who has taken on the mantle opposite any of our greatest real or imagined heroes. He is the real or imagined hero known as the falsehood. If it was a crime what they did and something to be stopped and something that was wrong, then why is he saying they shouldn't be in jail? And again, these are all confessions. These are all pieces of a confession saying they did what I wanted them to. They didn't do anything wrong. And again, the question comes to incompetence or volition, because if he doesn't understand that he did something wrong, like break your oath, go to jail wrong, and that they did something, break your oath, go to jail wrong, like break your oath as a human citizen of this country, you did bad shit, you go to jail for that bad shit. We don't have to like your ideology or hate your ideology. We don't like your ideology, but that's not why you're in jail. There are all kinds of people who are tempted by the Nazi allure of MAGA. There are people who are drawn into that by being part of the Klan and part of families that were indoctrinated into that pedophilic, violent, terrorist, racist, transgenociding horror. Any and all of you who are trapped under that falsehood, any and all of you who have been indoctrinated and abused and sexually abused and tortured to take Stockholm Syndrome-based pride in hate and pride in a culture of cannibalistic torture. That's all white supremacy is. It's a terrorism cult. And these behaviors, this cancer of white fire and intolerance, is crime. It is bloodthirsty Jeffrey Dahmer as a community crime. And Marjorie and Ron DeSantis and people sowing attempts to cloak that matrix of white terrorism and patriarchal terror. Are simply the latest line of the Confederacy. I mean, there's not a statute of limitations. They're just trying to start up the engine of the Confederacy again. That's what this is. For as much of that form as possible to be normalized within a new, horrific post-America that is just a dictatorship, a corporate, racist, terroristic dictatorship. And theocratic, obviously, based on a lie of some kind of Nazi Jesus who would point across a river and say, well, that's a border, those aren't really people over there. We need to be really aware that that we're at a spot where things like allowing a dearth of military promotions to happen is a danger to America. Allowing someone like Mike Johnson to be the Speaker of the House is a danger to the existential outlook for America. We do have to defeat the Nazis again. But the fun thing is that once we do, at least democracy in America will still be here. And if we do it right, if we do this right, all of those people who are hostage by the Ku Klux Klan now, all of those people who are held hostage in a basement, whether they're held by a chain and whether or not they have white skin, And whether they're just held to the Ku Klux Klan by a hood, or by a promise, or by a terrorism, by a fear and a trauma, wherever you're held, victim and hostage of the hate and terrorism and malice of the Ku Klux Klan and its crime and Antichrist aspect. Anyone who is touched by that and harmed by that can be liberated from it. And that is our project. We are a kindness come. We will defend ourselves, and we will defend America. And we will defend the right of people who have been infected by white terrorism to relinquish that and heal and rejoin human family through truth and reconciliation and psychological care. All of us are the reality distortion fielding, and yes, there are some crimes that may need us to isolate people somewhat, but we have some real things to repair with our disastrous and racist incarceration system, of course, as well. It's all part of the project of making humanity humane. And I do believe that if we stop capitalizing upon need and vulnerability and capitalize upon want, genuinely upon, like, we actually well support need, so people just have a basis upon which they can live and don't create a system of punishment that people may or may not ever escape, which is also in and of itself unjust. Unjust and just very, very not intelligent, very, very unevolved, very, very low resonance, and very, very degraded and hopeless in terms of what we as humanity should expect of ourselves. We should know that our best angels are here and can become at any time. Don't let people break down your knowledge of your connection to humankind. Do not let people harm you or your mind. Do not let people damage the love inside you. Oh, that's why. That would do it every time. That's why. Yes. Okay. We have now changed over microphones. Well, thank you for being with us through this somewhat tech-riddled fiasco. Oh. Hope you're enjoying these special nostril views that are all the rage, I hear, with the young in the tooths. Proper, very proper indeed. And next. The point is to say we're facing harm that will come to a lot of people, that is being threatened by the Heritage Foundation, by Donald Trump, and by a number of right-wing organizations allying themselves with Nazi totalitarian Christian nationalism to sow discord and tear apart democracy in America with concentration camps and mass murders and imprisonments that are entirely political. That is part of why people are clearing the path for Donald Trump to say that holding him accountable for actual crimes interferes with an election as opposed to protects it. Somehow, the United States doesn't have a way to argue for the right of citizens to not be under attack by someone leveraging that America doesn't have a specific rule against Donald Trump running with his name in 2024. Like, that we simply actually need the Constitution to be completely explicit and give us orders rather than be a guiding document that we know how to protect because we don't let vampires with swastikas on their chest come back in. Once we ejected you and saw that you did a number 2 when we said do your duty, and you're like, I didn't do anything wrong, I just shat on the Constitution and shat on my watch. I was like, I'm going to break this oath. What's wrong with that? And we're like, oh, he's crumbs about it. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, or thinks that we don't, and that he has us over a barrel. As he said when questioned about something very grave and important that he was casual about, he just says, I won. Like, we made a deal, and the deal is I get to punch you as much as I want, and I won. So, what of it? He's not a well person, and the ability to know we're not engaging in cowardice comes from being able to drill down on clear lies and question why these lies are happening. That the scient mind allows us to perceive this blithering idiocy, it means that we can figure stuff out. It means that we can perceive through the use of facts at times when someone is lying, and we can see, okay, that's a falsehood. We can also perceive when people are speaking through the bandwidth of rumor and suspicion and trying to leverage it into something through confidence. Through, well, you trust me, those people are bad and you know me, and they're going to come and get me. We have to go and get them first. This is the lynch mob of Marjorie Taylor Greene's voice. This is the lynch mob of Donald Trump's voice, to incite harm into being. And again, to trick someone else to do it. Or to have normalized telling us that they can shoot us in the street without consequences so many times that we are dumbfounded. And that's what the Heritage Foundation has just done. The Heritage Foundation has just told us that they can shoot us in the street and not lose any voters. The Heritage Foundation has just told us that they can shoot people in the street and not lose anyone. And we need to say no to the Heritage Foundation and all of the Nazi collaborators and Nazis at the Heritage Foundation and its band of neo-Nazi Christian nationalist thugs. This is not democracy in action that we're looking at. This is conspiracy fact, confessed to as coercive first wave of attack. It's called a blitz, and it's called normalization. It's called letting a video get out that you get to grab people's private parts because you're a star, because you're great, and they just let you do it. And like Hitler grabbing the Sudetenland, you then say, I didn't do anything wrong. But appease me, Seymour. Appease me, Seymour. And then he sees more and grabs that too and informs us that he's already declassified those private parts with his mind. Appease me, Seymour, and he does see more. That is who we are dealing with. And cancer does make you feel good. It does make you think that cancer is your friend until it's done. And when cancer's done, typically you're done. Typically when cancer is done with us, we're done. We need to recognize the con artist and notice that whether Nazi collaborator or Nazi incarnate, we have a Nazi telling us he's coming back, and a gaggle of Nazis like Charlie Kirk and Stephen Miller and the Heritage Foundation telling us they're coming to take over and break democracy for white supremacy. And America, the new Colossus, we need to say no. And this is the beginning of the liberation of America from white supremacists like Stephen Miller, Steve Bannon, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Carrie Lake, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Greg Abbott, Tucker Carlson, Elon Musk, and Donald Trump. We are the resonation of love's imagination, humanity. And we are intolerant only of intolerance. Yes. You see, I think if we could hear the mind of democracy, if we could hear the invitation actually, I think what we might hear could be radio scientry. Particle matter wave, particle matter wave, Jermaine. Particle matter wave, Jermaine. Radio science brain. Imagination may contain caress agent, come now to play. Imagination may contain radio science brain relay the same. Imagination. Made rain from our brains to our brains, imagining made to aid today. This is the kindness came to play. Radio science brain. I'm having a little bit of a tech issue with the sound feed. It's off for me here, and I think I'm going to try to make an adjustment. I think
this will work and hopefully not bump the feed off feed. Okay. Sorry about the sonic issue there. Sorry about the ring. Okay. This transition is being done so poorly. But we're going to get there. Hopefully this comes together. Let's see, can this be? I think we're there. All right. I am going to attempt something once more called radio science brain. Can I move now? Hello? Hello? Can I move now? Okay, thanks. All right, so radio science brain. I'm going to take just a mo here and grab a coffee. You know, I talk a lot about the falsehood, but what is the falsehood? Who, who, what the Falcon Crest? Oh, dude, that's too bad.
Dude, are you fucking kidding? You've been charging. What the fuck? Goodness, I'm having some frustration, clearly. I'm clearly having some frustration with some tech here, pardon me. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. It's fucking plugged in. What happened? Did I not plug it in? Oh my god. No, wait a minute. What? It was plugged in. Strange. All right. Well, this, I guess, is how we figure those things out. I don't know. All right. Well, very interesting. I'm having a little bit of an adjustment here. Just a little bit upset. Just finding some tech issues, and somehow that's trying for me today. I lose track of how easy it is to lose track of how easy it can be. We want things to happen and we want to help. But it takes a lot. It takes a lot for things to come together. And to be grateful for how much that does happen and how much that depends on other people or our vaunted and perfect success also does. There's a lot going on. And if we're not being kind to ourselves, if we're just a continuing justification of punishment, then we're just a continuing justification of punishment. Let's do let's. Such an interesting tensile unit. All right. Well, I'm going to try Radio Science Brain in a different way. A slightly different text spread, but I think this may have, at least in temporality, a better effect. Let's find out. This is Radio Science Brain. I'm going to play for you the song
Radio science, brain, imagination, imagination, radio science, brain, imagination, contain cantankerous agent. Radio science brain, this is the science pageant. This is Kane, come to play and record its arrays postulation. This is Kane, come. Imagination, maybe someone may. Radio science brain, come came to play today. Imagination aid contains radio science brain. Imagination aid might make the game. Imagination aid remains radio science brain. I made this, I played this, recorded these beats and these brays and these pumps and these plays. Radio science brain, I recorded this and then over these ramps and reels I innovate and discover this freight. Particle matter weight contain this cantankerous agent, one of my best angels of change. Radio science brain. This is the sentience game as arranged. This is the mindless made and contained activation. This is the kindness came and stayed. This is the mindless made, this parade. Innovation knows capable aid from the main line of imagination. Aid contain radio science brain, imagination aid mind made. Come came today to play aspect of mindness liaised. Maybe the kindness came and stays. Maybe the mindness makes you obey in which you play. You are the sentience came to say. Radio science brain mind made this. I caved out today. I caved out new space for play. I caved slowly out and bloomed a new way. Imagination aid, mind made a cavalcade. This is my mindness as arranged up today. chronicle I display, radio science brain from the studio I state. From this mindness I elucidate. This is the kindness came in case it's not too late. In case we're alive, really now anyway. Radio science brain, germane. Find the segments, find the beats again. Tune the intonation in imagination. It contains, among other things, now radio science brain. Radio science brain. You are the kind of thing that knows it's thinking itself, that makes you a sentience, that makes you human, that makes you intentions. You are the renovation innate, love imaginate ways, things yet levitates. You are the kindness came in case. You are the gray array activate. Radio science brain you postulate, mindness made up to case. Remains of damages. We manage this with radiant nature. With scient claim we are reason. As a thing, as a property, not as evidence. Actually, I don't mean do you have a speck of data that says why. I mean, do you have a reasoning mind? Are you ability-wise able to apply new information and change your mind? The quality of reason is that you can find reality when reality winds. Imagination, I can help this reminder remind. That is one pass through radio science brain. Having some intonation issues there, I'm thinking. And dealing with, just by way of explanation, not excuse, there's no excuse. There's no excuse. There's no excuse for my behavior. I own it. I own my behavior. And I can explain it. And I also own the possibility and the proven capability of apologizing for my behavior. If we're scient, then we have to know. We can be flawed. If we're scient, then we have to know that we
aren't all God, that we're maybe, connected. But even if we are connected to something like God, if there is a God, the idea that there is an apartness and a separation that makes some supreme, it's catastrophe. And we can separate the humanity and kindness and goodness of people who have been under the falsehood of whiteness and process through with truth and reconciliation all of that blightness, so that white people, processing the damage of how that was minted and how that perverted the culture of light-skinned Caucasians and what we now call white people, as well as anything else. Like, it's okay to be honest about when mistakes are made, and okay to live with the record. If we're not dealing with what happens in our lives honestly and saying, yeah, I wouldn't do that again, or I would do that again, so don't get in my way. If we're not at least reckoning with things and for me, as an autistic person and just person, learning about holding my boundaries without, especially if I'm really scared, dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder, when I'm actually triggered, to really know, okay, I'm overcome by panic. There's a thing happening that I can pilot, and to have built skills and know how to bring those skills to the fore. And these aren't easy things to do unless we are helped to do them, and helped to do them by ourselves and other people. And it is hard work. And part of the abuse that we see being enacted is against people who are neurodivergent. Part of the damage that is coming our way, if we don't stop it, is the shape of Nazis like Elon Musk, who would try to wipe things from human mindedness and say that this is a correct way of thinking, or have huge blind spots about things like free speech or just malevolence. As we see Elon Musk telling us that he's making Neuralink, we have to actually probably stop him from doing that, I would say. I would say that if there's one person on Earth we shouldn't trust with dealing with the human mind, it's Elon Musk. We should take what he did to Twitter as a blueprint for what he plans to do to us. That is not good. He's sliding down $44 billion in a Joker cosplay. And he will do the same to the human mindness itself. He is a danger to sentience. That is havoc. And sentience takes many forms. There are different kinds, ways of thinking. And the mindness even contains radio, science, brain. I'm going to have a little more coffee and let you hear the end of the music from one of the older versions from, I think, 2015 of Radio Science Brain.
Well, isn't that something? Here we are, possibly using the yes. Let's go here and go here. Why, we're at the mystery font. See? Nito Canito, everybody. Right? And this is about to become radio science brain. It's about to happen. I think. Oh my gosh. Oh my. Wait. It could be. Oh, holy Katzenbergs. Okay, wait. Oh, almost come to play today. I mean, I could do it without the music, but I think I want to do it with the music, so it's gonna happen like this way, right? Like how if it. Oh gosh. Oh, there we go, and not yet. Okay, here we are. All right. Yep. Okay. Imagination may be game to play today. Remain the nature your creature makes. Radio science brain just takes and just states innate. Imagine this brain may just pollinate and contain this contagious agent of change. Remain this container. Come may play today. Imagination aim. Be game. Don't be prey to predator today. Imagination may contain cantankerous agent change. Hold the reins. Imagination aims. The mind may be game to play today. Radio science brain, I made this arranged contagion maze to contain pain and activate healing and contain some sealing of the sentience against sentience. We are intolerant against tolerance, hate. We are the scient mate, we are the mindless capable to freight the day. Imagination aid can contain. Away tolerance holds sway. We will tolerate all but intolerance and find a peaceful way to contain the sentience may play now today if you are able to emancipate. You are the mindless chariot. You are the gray rays liaison. Participate, mindless may be sane. Maybe saying your name, asking love to communicate. You are the kindness came and not too late. You are the mindness made the freight. Your spinning plates are game to play. You are the mindless kindness knows all days as play. Radio science brain, imagination aid is saying your name. From the field love exclaims, radio science brain germane. The language your brain made up to explain the sounds contains a greeting from love all around and above. Radio science brain. You are the mindless told me today I had to explain why I love this whole agency craving and say you are the gray array awake. Don't be told by the powerful that being woke is not love's way. Some of us know that Jesus would say, love your neighbor means being awake enough to treat your neighbor as you would be treated. How do we know where it needs needed? If woke is not the way, then fascism is glad to have our prayers as pray. We are saved, so we will be woke for humanity's playing or thinking and praying. May someone please come and show the way. The way won't be shown with swords, the woe won't be words that are bloody and torn. The word comes through and warms. The word says awaken and protect love's norms. Protect that love is better than swords. Protect that love is better than claiming. Knowing what love means to neighbors. We are ascensions come to play. And isn't that really the way? This is my way of the way, or one way, in terms of what I explain through this array spray. Radio Science Brain is an engine for postulation. It's a game. It's a song. It's a song poem. It's a song poem game. But I guess it's just how I'm thinking of it. It's how I'm treating it. So that's what it becomes. The word pretend, as I understand it, has archaic meanings related to ascension and becoming and worshiping. And if what we worship is what we want to foster or become or be guardian of the everlasting love of, then what are we fostering? What do we want to be everlasting? Love is more important than whiteness. But love is not more important than humanity, because love contains us. But
whiteness and all of the baggage of it, we can unpack and rescue all souls from that if we need to sink whiteness and say, let's just bring humanity back. Like, okay, sure, you're white, you're light-skinned, fine, you're off-white, you're beige, you're light beige tonight. Rejoining human family, like, it means accountability for what's been done. Truth and reconciliation means being in the room where we know we're talking about serious things, and also that there's not damage that comes from admitting wrongs. I mean, yes, where there are crimes, there will be there are consequences for things. But there's not such harm in actually admitting the true terrors that we know and also can't even measure or know of enslavement and what it did and what its remnants continue to do. It's not a serious person or someone who should be allowed to manage other people in a business, let alone should be a governor of someplace even like Florida. I shouldn't say, that sounds like I'm disregarding Florida. I mean, someone like Ron DeSantis should not be in office because of the level of malice that he brings. He clearly brings anti-black terrorism. And that's completely unacceptable. That's disqualifying. At face value, he's a blister on honor. He's a blister on safety. He is a blister on the eyeball that's supposed to watch us to make sure we're safe, not under command. But he asked for the watch, and he betrays it by using the watch to harm people. Ron DeSantis is conducting state-sponsored terrorism against Americans. Period. It's fact, and it is a crime that we're not dealing with that. Our complicity in his Nazi administration is ridiculous and clearly disabled our honor and our ability to see fact and where we need to step in to protect liberty and equality is atrocious. For playground bullies and liars who are full-bloomed harm engines like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Sarah Huckabee Sanders and Ron DeSantis, for them to be in office. It's such an incredible shame upon this country. The way that they conduct themselves and the way that others have through this breach of falsehoods, normalization. The way that they conduct themselves is something that amounts to an illegal filibuster that we allow. We don't need to point a microphone at someone just because. And we don't need to allow someone to run for office when they make threats against the office just because. But there are failures that have happened before and failures going on now that normalize Donald Trump as a candidate. And it's unforgivable. Clearly, though, it's also about, where there can be understanding and forgiveness after the fact, like at this point, is to say clearly people have been terrified. And most often, the people who are, on camera are not making decisions that guide where the eye of the news is looking. To a large degree, that's been buckled. I imagine through terror. But we are experiencing massive distortions in the field of reality, and that is the only reason why the announcement of Donald Trump's candidacy for the 2024 election wasn't met as an act of war, wasn't met as a reason to take him into custody and lay out, basic facts about the man who clearly sowed insurrection, and without referencing that fact and how the Constitution prevents him from trying to run, he said, I am running. Like, you're coming back when there's already something in the book saying you can't. So you don't get to say, well, but you're preventing my ability to run. No, not at all. Not at all. It's actually really easy. It's really easy to look at the trajectory. And that's what we'll be doing in an upcoming episode of Mystery Font 42, Open to It. We will be looking at the trajectory of the suspense and the suspension. That when someone terrorizes people with vague threats, when someone is actually using stochastic terror to, oh, there's the day when liberty is coming into view. This is the day, October 28th, 1918. It was 137 years ago. It's there, yeah. Maybe that's about the resonance of an event of such proportion, that people have an expectation of what they're invited to, that people, when they receive an invitation, form an idea in their mind, and that an invitation that is essentially created a need for and then sustained into a panic structure that goes all the way from the election until January 5th at midnight. And people are saying, but the evidence, he said they have evidence, Rudy Giuliani, they must have sent it. Oh, there must be something. Like, you don't see that there's a hand here and strings that are pulling and tensing and tensing and tensing for months, saying, I'm going to send the proof that I have. Like, this is clearly manipulation and grooming of like the basest, most obvious level. What would keep us from being prompted into violence? What would keep people from being prompted if they believed Trump was honest? That's why the attack happened. People believed that Trump was telling the truth. And that he still says that he was telling the truth about the election being stolen is a matter of free speech, only up until the point where we actually realize that that is the weapon with which he drew people, and that saying against fact, it's not just any fact. when virtually every instance of a mistake or fraud, something that we haven't found anything that even Trump judges who would obviously want to say, oh, that's a piece of evidence. Hey, look, it's maybe the only one, but that's one. Why is there not one judge who has said any of it is real? And why would Trump obscure evidence from view? Why would he wait when that is causing violence? Unless he wanted to. Unless, just like with COVID, he didn't want to cause a panic. Yet, it is loading and pulling back the string of a bow and aiming it where you want it to go, and not pulling it when people are like, but like, look, let it go. Like, wait, what? It just stokes and stokes and stokes, and every day he's talking about like, yeah, they won't let me do this. I know, right? I mean, I could just tell you, I have the proof. Gah! And it goes again the next day. And we don't realize, like, wait, the guy who's talking is the one who's holding the thing that would stop this from happening. He's like, you're gonna make me do this. You're gonna make me do this. I mean, that's what we're watching. The iceberg we're seeing coming towards us is held by the person telling the story. And my reenactment would trace back to that being Donald Trump. That all he had to do was say, here's the proof. And that the only proof we found are vast actual evidence and testimony and recordings verified and confessed to, or affirmed by cogent, loyal professionals. So like, this stuff is real. And how is it that somebody who his supporters are saying is chosen and the best president ever, how could he, with all of the powers of the presidency and what he says was a vast field of evidence, not find one piece and not be able to say, I see all this evidence, I'm just going to pick up one? He couldn't. He's like, I'm going to brush my teeth. I know how to find toothbrushes. I really have a suspicion of where I left mine upstairs, and I'm going to find that toothbrush. I'm going to show you a picture with the paper and the toothbrush. And we've never seen the toothbrush. It's not that hard, Donald. It's not that hard, Darvonald. Darvonald. It's not that hard to press a button so that it goes click, such that an email with a document is sent to someone and they say, okay, produce that document in court tomorrow because that's significant. We haven't heard that. We've heard your claims of something like that. We haven't heard claims of a court then saying, this appears to be real. It's just not that hard, dude. It's not that hard. It's not that hard. If you're afraid that someone is spying on you and has crept into your attic and is living there, and you're angry that no one is helping you, and people are offering the help to find, let's figure out what's happening here. I've been there. I haven't heard the sound you're saying, but I'm not there at night. I'm not there when you say it happens. Do you need a good mic? I have a mic. If you're afraid that something is happening, and you're afraid to find a way to share a point of entry for anyone to understand and say, okay, well, this is what we can do. This is what that looks like. This is the attack that's happening to you. Or, like, that at some point, into view has to come, okay, like, I'm a good person and I'm decent and I have senses, I'm just and I shouldn't be gaslit. And is my view, am I clear that I have a reason to think what I'm thinking? Can I find backup for this? Or can I find a way to articulate, my point of view such that somebody can say, oh, how you would only know that if you're webbed in that way that, oh, I didn't understand. That's why you're doing what you're doing. Why are you interested in that? Oh, that's what you mean when you're doing those drawings? You're drawing a huge compendium. You're drawing a history of transit in the city, and that's part of a record you want to offer to the city. That's a project you're doing for you. It looks beautiful. Wow. You have something inside that people can't see, or you have a point of view, you have a knowledge, you have, or just you, and you want to justify. You matter. I matter. And if I have something that I'm hanging on to that I'm saying, I need this scene, then in there, I do need to be open to the idea that I'm mistaken about things. It doesn't mean that I'm discredited, but it's scary to look at that in a world that emphasizes adversarial, dominated kind of relation, such that disclosure about things, transparency about, this is where I'm at in process. I really figured out some big things about, what's been happening with plowing, like screwing up the driveways and getting on people's cars, and some weird targeting stuff that seems to be happening. But then I also did find out that some of it is like it's a false positive. There's a company that's down the block that like has this truck that with this grease that comes out, like they don't have a good way to like transport this stuff, and it makes a mess sometimes. And I didn't know that like basically every other month, like the stuff that I was calling in about, they're like, what do you mean this like sludgy stuff? Actually, it didn't snow last night. And what do you mean? I'm like, oh, I thought this happened again. And I'm like, I was mistaken about what I was saying, and I found that out. So I communicate about that. Like, we need to know both that we need to know that like we're okay for ourselves, that we're not hallucinating about what's happening with the snow, or like there's somebody upstairs. No, there's not a tenant there. Oh, okay, well, I keep hearing this. No, they're there. No, I know they're there. If I can't sort out, or don't want to sort out that, if there's a rubber not meeting the road of reality somehow, then I'm not apprehending it, or it seems different, or people are saying, oh yeah, no one was there. I heard you screaming. I heard it sounded like you were having a conversation, and then I came in and I was like, I heard you go to sleep as I came in, and I was like scared a little bit, and nobody left. It's 2 hours later. Like, can we talk about this? Because it's okay. It's okay to talk to yourself. It's okay to talk to people who aren't here. That's not necessarily a bad thing. But if you're conscious of like a psychosis as opposed to like an exercise or a state of mind or a way that you process things, that you have like a holistically sound footing yourself here. We need to know that there's footing, that we have a grasp of like we're connected to the silent mind. And I want you to know that you're safe. I want me to know that I'm safe. So having that grasp and having a way to tap into friends or a society and like, let me check my watch, let me level with the level in the world, if only to say like, oh yeah, that level that I'm trying to calibrate on is one I trust with few people, because I see discalibration and lack of regulation in the world. I see more and more space for hate and fear itself. And so I'm not going to take like any news broadcast as like, that's the temperature at which my fear level should be, because it's being exploited and farmed and warped. Not because, I mean, the press is supposed to be, it's not the enemy of the people in any way, like dictators edging for absolute power say. The press is the people. The press is the fourth estate. And we need the press to see. But part of that is that we also do hold the press accountable for failures and allowing themselves to be kowtowed into kind of a homogeny that actually has made space for Donald Trump as a candidate again when he is ineligible and should have been treated as such. He was normalized. And that's being able to apprehend and look at that. We need to have that skill of like looking at a difficult truth, even if it means, if the reason we're not looking at something is because we're like, well, that I can't handle that, where it's not too late to ask for help there. That's definitely an I needed to ask for help already, and it's okay, but I need to ask for help. If you don't know, and you're saying to yourself, I can't look at that, it's too, if that I mean, Jesus Christ, I can't look at that shit. But we have to, because the nonsense and craziness that Donald Trump makes sense only if it's all true. And there are so many documented pieces of evidence that show it to be false, that we have been present for and seen. He has donned the falsehood. And if we're not listening to him at every moment and saying, okay, we have to listen to him through a filter of Darvo. We have to listen to him through a filter of, he's probably edging to contain something now. He is denying something to keep power or to acquire it. He is attacking to discredit people who are attacking him or asking him for accountability, and reversing the victim and the offender. Just like I, as a body and person, I need to apprehend with myself, also am I apprehending correctly? And work to apprehend. So we as a civic body, as a nation, need to apprehend, are we actually really tuning in to fact here? Like, yeah, some of us really like him, but are we tuning in to like, do we have a grasp on an actual fact here? Because most of us can tell that this is an attack. Most of us can tell that the Nazis are already telling us they're coming to sow absolute totalitarianism, and that Donald is at the bow of that ship. So how do we apprehend an assurance that we apprehend reality? I think that we do look to others and we look to different sources so that we're not going to the place that wrote the document that might be false to check if the document is false. Hey, did you lie in the document? Nope. Okay. We've given confidence to him. We've given confidence. We gave him the watch. He asked for the watch, just like the first con artist so named, who came to us and asked us, oh, my watch doesn't work. It's not ticking. Would you maybe, if I can make you look at my fine clothing that I've assembled here and make you think that I'm savvy, and then kind of denigrate your savviness somewhat, but also show you that I really appreciate how savvy you are, and then mention that my watch is broken and that, gosh, you could do me a good turn. Of course I would. In fact, you can just have mine.
It does have sentimental value. Why don't you just give me your watch, as I would do for you? Of course I would give this to you, but it does have sentimental value. So I'll hang on to my broken watch, of course, because as I would ask that you do, I would not, do not ever feel that you need to give your watch to me as collateral. Never. Why would you think that? So just give me your watch until tomorrow, and I'll bring it back to you. Would you have the confidence to give me your watch until tomorrow? To say that, knowing that you are perverting the natural course of human need being attended to by humans who understand need, injustice and kindness and human sorority and fraternity, human solidarity, that when someone tries to leverage confidence, like I don't have the proof, I don't have collateral, it's okay. It's okay to ask for that. But this is someone leveraging that, meaning to cheat. As Donald Trump clearly meant to cheat, and means to cheat. He's coming back to cheat us. That's a basic to the attack. There's a bait and switch there. To cheat America as he did before, and loot this place, and tear apart our ability to defend ourselves, to know what's happening, by sending our scientists to strange places, by disempowering agencies that literally keep poison from our lungs and bodies and the inside of our eyeballs. We have to be able to apprehend the harm that is telling us it will come. This has been an episode. I think I'm coming out of this now. I'm still here. I am where I have arrived in this future, in this moment. And changed somewhat. It's mostly been testimony this time, and posing some questions, I suppose. But it has been an episode with which I think I might bring nearer a close. What it looks like when someone there's a connection point between that original confidence artist who asked people who he'd cultivated a savvy, cultish, kind of a cult of personality relationship with, just off the cuff, like, wow, who is this dashing figure that trusts me too? And wow, he thinks I know and I'm well-to-do. And, oh, I can do a favor for you? Oh, my watch? Of course. Sure, here, have my watch. You'll give it back in due course. Of course, in due course. Of course I have that confidence in you. Bye now. See you at what time? Well, he's gone. Okay. That confidence artist echoes because the watch to this future, the watch is also more than something to one person. The watch also can mean not just the timepiece, but the notepad and the nuclear football. That if you ask to preside, if you ask for the job,
and the duty and take the oath of presiding, you are asking for the watch. You're asking not just for the timepiece, but you're asking to be the one who is standing on the wall and watching outside the city and looking into the city and knowing that all is well. And if there's a storm coming of any kind, be it human-created or natural or unknown, you are letting us know about that pathogen and not holding some part of it to protect your throne or your after this throne. Like when you move on to create a media empire or form a different country on the ashes of America. That asking for a role in office, you're asking for executive function, and you are asking to be the presider, the one who presides, the one in charge. You're asking to hold the watch so that when we go to sleep, we trust you. And we trust that if you're not awake and watching, that you trust the person who is on with your life. That's what's going on. That you failed to make sure, and I guess you did. You did in the case that I misspoke there. You did have that person watch only your life. But the people and the system that you set up, and you were only watching out for you and riding your office for all it's worth, using the deference, the field of deference given to the presidency and to the media watchability or currency of celebrity and loudmouth buffoonery that earns television time and media attention. Asking for the watch is asking for the duty. And when it was time to do your duty, you followed through on your threat to keep us in suspense about honoring elections and a peaceful transfer of power. You broke the watch, Darvonald, on January 6th. And there's not coming back from that doesn't cop to that doesn't admit that you tried to do that, or that you screwed up so badly in presiding over things that you allowed under your nose for insurrection to threaten democracy on earth. It's either incompetence or volition by which you did a duty on your duty and thus thrust the watch down the toilet. That's where we are. That's why you don't get to run. That's why you don't come back, because you tried to make yourself weapon. And no, the answer is no. So he's coming back again and saying, well, you'll have confidence in me, right? You'll give me the watch. And again, that's like power. He's asking for the general watch to be the one in charge, to be the one who decides what reality is in essence, in some way, or to be one who, if they would pervert it, would do so with that power. And he has proven that he will. And his actions to this date don't tell us otherwise. He's unable to show up for court, respecting the court that is deciding his fate. You're not Groucho Marx, and this is not a club in which we're asking you to participate. You're asking to lead the club, so you have to obey the rules, mate. So why in the world would we not realize now that we are looking at a confidence artist who is asking us not just for the watch around our wrist, but our wrist? Because that is what we are risking.
And if we don't have a way to cauterize it, we will lose more than our wrist and the hand attached to it. We are listening to and watching the mouth of Donald Trump and the Heritage Foundation gang of Nazi thugs conducting Agenda 47 and the Project 2025 initiatives. We are looking in the face that group of monstrous individuals preparing to attack us and sow a Nazi, totalitarian, violent theocracy with absolute power and absolute malice for anyone who's not a nice, who's not a white male, or someone that white males want to keep around as pets. That is the damage of the Nazism and Christian nationalism. And that's what we're looking at, telling us it's going to come and destroy a lot of us. That's not Jesus talking. That's not humanity talking. That's not responsibility talking. That's generational trauma weaponizing and taking on the tactics of Alex Jones. That's damage, and that's an antichrist spectrum of behavior. So that person who has already joked about pooping in the soup, and then indeed did poop in the soup, and then finally told people, maybe you should stop eating the soup. I think there's some poop in there. I mean, I did say we should do some shit today, I did say this is going to be a shitty soup if something doesn't change real soon. And okay, fine. It was a shitty soup. It shouldn't have happened. And then saying, actually it wasn't really a shitty soup. And if it was, people deserved it. And in fact, nothing was done wrong. And actually, I noticed, they're pretty exciting. There's a new soup chef job open up at the same place, in fact, and I'm taking the job. That's where we are. The guy who we fired for shitting in the soup and serving it to people, for breaking the basic contract of American democracy. That guy is coming back saying, actually, I didn't do anything wrong. And if I did, you liked it. You probably it's probably what you want. And by the way, I'm coming back. And my friends over at shitsoup.com, they really have 80 groups of, people, it's basically Charlie Kirk and his circle jerk. At Project 2025. That's what we're looking at. And behemoths of ignorance on that level, kowtowed by terror and by their own quaking cowardice, to persecute others, lest they have opportunity to think and reflect upon the monstrosity of their humanity. We're looking at Nazis. So whether Trump is truly the racist he seems to be, or is simply glad to be a Nazi collaborator, we should be aware that that is who is asking us once more for the watch. And remembering that he actually told us he would keep us in suspense about that, about obeying peaceful transfer of power and honoring elections. He told us before he was elected, I'll keep you in suspense. And then he did. And that watch that we gave him, the agreement that he would be the one watching for us, he used that exclusive information for his own benefit because he didn't want to cause a panic yet. And 1 million of us died. And he gathered us to Washington with a big lie. So he did try to fuck with us.
he did try.
Baby, I don't understand why we can't just hold on to each other's hands. This time might be the last I feel, unless I make this all too clear. Need you so. Take these broken wings, learn to fly again, learn to live so free. When we hear the voices sing, the book of love will open up and let us in. Take these broken wings. Maybe think tonight we can take what was wrong, make it Baby, it's all I know, that you're half of the flesh and blood that makes me whole. I need you so. Take these broken wings and learn to fly again, learn to live so free. When we hear the voices sing, book of love will open up and let us in. Take these broken wings and learn to fly again and love so free. When we hear the voices sing, book of love will open up and let us in. Show us where to begin. Let us in. Baby, it's all I know, that you're half of the flesh and blood that makes me whole. Yeah. Take these broken and learn to fly again, live and love so free. When we hear the voices sing, the book of love will open up and let us in. Take these broken wings. We've got to learn to fly and love so free. We hear the voices sing. The book of love will open up. Let us in. Show us where to begin. The book of love will open up and let us
I love you. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful that you exist and that you are who you are. That you dare to be you.